Bonjour.
All right, so hi everyone, and welcome to today's Fit for Freight webinar dedicated to data exchange. This Monday, we had another webinar focusing on wagon utilization, where we learned about what is the GCU, General Contract for Use of Wagons, why is it important for the sector to have this private agreement between railway undertakings and keepers. And today we'll dig deeper into the digital part of it and the data exchange related to wagons. Before we start, I would like to notify you that the webinar is being recorded, but there will be Q&A sessions after each presentation or topic. And in case of questions, please raise your hand and I will invite you to speak. Otherwise, you can still put any question in the chat of this webinar, and we will get back to them during these Q&A sessions. So let's dig into the wagon data exchange. But before we do that, I would like to introduce our guest speakers of today. Jürgen Hiller and starting with Jürgen Hiller and Petr Červinka. Welcome. Could you maybe introduce yourself and say one or two sentences about what do you do in your daily life in railway undertakings business?
Yeah, thank you, Martin. My name is Jürgen Hiller. I'm chairman of the UIC IT study group and chairman of the Hermes working group GRU since 2008. I'm working for DB Cargo, where I'm responsible for the Hermes data exchange for DB Cargo group and for some applications for production fulfillment. And also I'm participant of several working groups, telematic expert groups from the tough TSI topics. Thank you. Peter?
Good morning. My name is Petr Červinka. I'm the chairman of the ISR assembly within Rail Data. And also, I'm chair of the Hermes production group at Hitrail. I'm working at Cherry Cargo, where I'm responsible for data exchanges with other railway undertakings, and now also for exchange with infrastructure managers, and also responsible for tough implementation.
Thanks. Great to have you on board. Continuing with Christian and Barinas. Welcome.
Then I will start, even if I'm not a woman. But no, that's, my name is Christian Künast. I'm working for DB Cargo in the wagon department. I'm the responsible for all GCU topics within the DB group. And also I'm the member of the joint committee of the GCU and member of the UIC study group. And for that, I'm the chairman of Correda. That is a product that I will present today.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Parinas Bazari from UIC Fit department. I'm working on IT-related projects in freight, and I help Jürgen in coordinating IT study group, and I'm the point of contact if you have any question regarding the work we have in UIC IT study group. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having you too as well. Let's start, but before we start with the actual content, we would like to see your profiles, so the profiles of US participants. Could you let us know a bit more about yourselves? Which company or sector do you represent? And while doing so, I will quickly outline today's agenda. So in the beginning, we'll hear about the data framework and the messages in rail freight businesses. We'll continue on the digital part of what we discovered this Monday, of general contract for the use of wagons, GCU. And later on, we'll elaborate on the Correda database for the commercial responsibility of the wagons. And afterward, we'll continue with the tracking of the wagon movement, so the ISR application within Rail Data, and we'll conclude the webinar with the UIC IT groups and the expertise we offer as UIC for the sector. All right, so without further ado, I will close the poll and give floor directly to Jürgen, who will start with a framework and messages. Jürgen,
Yeah, thank
the floor is
you,
yours.
Martin. Yeah, the first slide tries to give a rough overview about the data exchange, data messages with deals with more or less wagon data. You see in the middle of the slide the railway undertaking, the RU, and other roundabout there are other different stakeholders and databases. So this is a rough overview. When we start with the communication between RU and RU, that means from the middle RU to the right-hand side, there is a communication via Hermes 30 and also via ISR. The content and the purpose of the messages itself will be described later on in the presentation. This is just for a rough overview, as I said. So we have here RU communication for wagons with Hermes 30 or with ISR. Then we have to the left-hand side a communication from the railway undertaking to the wagon keepers via railway rolling stock reference database RSRD, and to give the technical wagon data. Then we have a communication. It's called wagon performance message for the wagon mileage and wagon damage report, which gives the information about some damages in the wagon. This is done via the GCU broker. To this topic, Christian Künast will give some more detailed information. Also, for Correda, this is what we have already said, a database for the commercial responsibility of wagons. This is also described by Christian Künast, also a communication between RU for the wagons. And then we have the communication from RU to infrastructure manager, also concerning the train composition, the train content, and the wagons which are in the train. This is mostly done by TAF TSI train composition message, but in some cases also via Hermes 30. So next slide, please. So this is now a detailed look into the Hermes 30 message, which is used mostly for RU communication. Hermes means the handling through European Railway messages electronic system. The message comprises the data to be exchanged for operations of trains, for forwarding wagons, intermodal units, and other rail vehicles, meaning each vehicle which are in a train. So this is a train-related message. The Hermes 30 message from version 2.0 and newer versions, which are currently in development, these are compliant with the TAF TSI. That means that if you have an RU communication with a Hermes version 2.0, for example, this RU communication is compliant with TAF, so you can have fulfilled the requirements concerning TAF TSI. The basis for the Hermes 30 message is the IRS 404042 and IRS 19920-13, managed also by UIC by the IT study group. The purpose of Hermes 30, as I said, is streamlining train handover with advanced data. That means at the handing over point of a train from one RU to another RU, that may be at the border or at a station somewhere in your country, anywhere, at this handing over point, all data are transferred, all data from the train are transferred from the handing over to the taking over RU, all data which are necessary to continue the train run without additional capturing of data. That means that if you get as an taking over RU Hermes 30 message, you don't have to stop the train and send somebody out to capture some data. Currently in the development is a project, it's called DP Rail. The focus is to create a kind of data platform for the data exchange between RU and infrastructure manager, because currently the communication is always bilateral from point to point, and from DP Rail there is a development to implement a kind of data platform to have more or less a common platform for the data exchange. So now I've told you some, or gave you some information concerning the messages which deals with the train content, train consist data exchange. But I've said there is a Hermes message, or for the infrastructure information, mostly train composition message. So what is the difference between these two messages? As I said, Hermes is mostly used in RU communication to enable the taking over RU to continue train without additional data import or additional capturing of data. The message is related to the handing over point and contains, or the content is the technical wagon data, meaning length, weight, brake equipment, and so on, load metrics, information about damages, and really important for the RU, the dispatch and first of all the destination of the wagon, so that the taking over RU knows to where this wagon has to be operated, information about the routing of the wagon, about the good NHM number, information for customs, and information about intermodal loading units. On the opposite here we have, or parallel, we have the other questions. We have a train composition message, which is mostly used from RU to infrastructure manager communication. And the purpose is to give the infrastructure manager the information about the length and the weight of the train and some specific information like exceptional transport, RID information, and technical wagon data, length and weight, so that the infrastructure manager knows how long and how heavy is the train. So that means the train composition message is more or less a subset of Hermes. But since in the train composition message there is no information about the destination of the single wagons, no information about the routing of the wagons, no information about NHM number of the load, so the TCM could mostly not be used by RU to operate the train. Yeah. So thanks. That's for my part. If there are no questions, then we can go to the GCU contract. Christian, please.
There's one hand raised.
Hand raised, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Tommy.
Yes, we have one question about the difference between Hermes and ISR, but I believe it would be maybe better to listen for the whole story, full storyline, to learn about ISR, and then maybe it will come by nature before jumping into later stages. Yeah.
So, okay. Sorry, I did mention that ISR is presented and explained by Peter Czerwinka. Just one sentence. Hermes is, as I said, the information about the whole train with all wagons in the train, and ISR is more related per wagon and per shipment. So, but details to ISR will be followed by Peter.
Thank you. Yeah, Christian, the floor is yours.
Okay, then let's start. Yeah, to be orientated where we are. We have a lot of interfaces, and one of them is the GCU broker. You see it on the right-hand side. And please go on with the next page. So what is the GCU? Maybe most of them should know. The GCU is a general contract of use of wagons. It's a central multilateral private law contract between wagon keepers and IUs in Europe. and it's the main contract for all RUs and keepers that are working with each other. More than 95% of the traffic in Europe is done by or with the GCU contract as part of the contract that we use together. The GCU agreed on rules for business-to-business transport within Europe. So there is a clear process and installed how to deal with wagons that are used by RUs. And if there happens something during the transport, then the information flow is described in the GCU contract. Right now, we have close to 800 members already, and it's still increasing. So every day, every year, there are more and more members joining the GCU because it's one of the mandatory contracts. And most companies, in their terms and conditions, they have mentioned that the GCU contract are prerequisite for a transport. And right now, we have 30 states with over 550,000 wagons that are following the rules of the GCU contract. And I've heard that the Baltic states will join the GCU contract as well soon. So we are still, as I mentioned, increasing the numbers of states and members. For more details, of course, you find the information on the GCU website, and there's also a video that describes the GCU contract a little bit more. So we, as the GCU, have installed 2019 the GCU broker because we said it's necessary to have a digital data exchange to improve the processes that we installed since 2006 when the GCU was born. The main focus was to have a faster and digital data exchange between wagon keepers and RUs. In the past, we have sent fax, or even we have called the members or sent it by post, or it wasn't really fast and not state of the art. So the one focus was the fast and digital exchange. Of course, we would like to optimize the processes because sometimes we had to wait on answers from the keeper side or RU side and what happens with the wagon. So the GCU broker will support the information flow between the participants. What we have as well is a higher security because we get the current data of the wagons with the RSID, the rolling stock database that we get, and also the information from the RU side to the keeper, what happened with his wagons, the wagon performance message, and also the wagon damage report are sent by the GCU broker. And this means, of course, it's higher efficient and we reduce the manual workload because you are able to integrate the information that you receive by IT interface directly into your IT system. Of course, it improves the communication between the customers as well because keepers and also RUs communicate directly with each other without any delay. And what you can do with the information is, of course, you can systematic data analyze the information. So if you get information from the broker side, you can directly use maybe artificial intelligence to improve the data and maybe change some processes within your company, or it's easier to claim you claim some money for the people that oh, I have an echo. Oh, it's okay. So you have the claim management is more easy because you get the information as fast and you get more information sometimes with also some pictures of the damage, for example. Next page, please. What we have installed, and this I mentioned before, and even was in the beginning, the scope of the first development of the GCU broker was that we have just one interface for all the members, for all the nearly 800 members that have a data exchange through the platform. With the first development, we have installed the mileage events, that we can exchange the mileage events according EU regulation, of course, and also according the COTIF. There's described that we have to send the mileage events and also the wagon damage report to each others. And the GCU broker is the tool how to do it within the GCU contract. And also we have installed as a first step the technical information of the wagon on request. So every IU is able to receive the information of the current data of the wagons directly from the keeper. And this is one of the main points of the GCU broker. The GCU broker is not a database. The GCU broker just knows where the database is to find. So you connect as IU or keeper to the GCU broker, and the GCU broker will route your request or your message through the broker to the right address. So the GCU broker just saves the IP address and the wagon number, and then knows how to deal with the information. And what's also important is that the GCU broker is tough TSI. The requirements of the tough TSI are considered by the GCU broker. For example, we have also a common interface that you could use, but nevertheless, of course, we are using SOAP and REST as well. Next page, please. Yes. This is the information flow in a little bit more detailed way. As I mentioned before, the GCU broker is a central system with the wagon number and the IP address. And you can, as a keeper, you have to prepare your rolling stock data set that you have to that you have to present to the IU side. And you are able to have your own database, or if you don't want to have your own database, you can join the RSRD squared, for example. There's a database that is connected to the GCU broker, and you can exchange through the broker then your data. And on the other side, the IU, for example, DB Cargo and other big IUs are sending, for example, the wagon damage with the wagon performance message through rail data. Here is a connection to ISR as well that will Peter present later on. And the data are prepared by rail data and sent through the GCU broker to the wagon keeper. The wagon damage report you have to send by your own from the IU side to the GCU broker to the keeper. There is no system that supports, but nevertheless, for example, there's a wagon damage, or the VDR flyer it's called. It's a small IT support tool that sends information through the GCU broker. So you can buy this software as a service as well. Next page, please. Here are, as a summary, it's already what I have mentioned, but the main achievements since 2019 are that we have sent more than 500,000 wagon performance messages a month through the broker by more than 20 IUs. Nevertheless, it's only 20 IUs. We are a lot of more users in the GCU broker, but we try to force all members to exchange information through the broker. On wagon damage reports, we sent more than 7,000 wagon damage reports on a month, and the number is still growing, but still there are only 30 IUs that send the information on regular terms. And here we are working still on this issue to improve these numbers. And this audience here today is very important for us, that you take it with you and with within your company to improve the processes as well. And right now you will find over 300 wagon daters, 300,000 wagon daters in our database, or they are connected with over 19 wagon keepers. So more than 50% of the technical wagon data are already available in the GCU broker. And here still we try to improve every time that other will join the GCU broker and this functionality as soon as possible as well. What we have now is, if we know, we started with the project 2012, 2013, and it took us quite a while to improve the GCU broker or to even install the GCU broker. And we are working now on the GCU broker. It's called right now 4.0, but it's just an internal project name. And we are working on use cases and try to develop a new roadmap to install more functionalities within the GCU broker. Next page, please. And here are just some ideas that we are working on. It's not published so far in all kind of newsletters or within all the groups and boards. It's just first thoughts that we would like to share with you, and feel free to have other use cases for us that we should implement. We have, for example, short-term operational restrictions. Example, a keeper says for some of the wagons, the maximum speed right now have to be reduced from 100 to 80, for example. And here we would like to have a platform where this information could be published to the RUs, and they know, okay, in this for a certain time, even if on the wagon stands 120, for example, I'm only allowed to travel with this wagon 80 or have some other restrictions. Also, we would like to share the return to operation message with each other. It's one of the requirements of the ECM that we see, and that could help, for example, to have a smoother process through the when the wagons are going to the workshop and going back, that we have as a RU better information between the ECM and the RU that is taking over the wagon after the maintenance. Of course, there are other possibilities, smart wagons, intelligent loading goods, and other things that we are thinking about. But nevertheless, it will cost money and it will cost time, and it's not only the interface that we have to install between wagon keepers and RUs. It's more that all the members have to connect then to this interface with the information that we would like to exchange. And of course, there are beyond the GCU partners, there are some companies or institutes interested in this information. For example, NSA or the infrastructure could have more information about technical information for infrastructure breakthroughs. For example, we could exchange. Right now, there's a different or an additional platform that you have to give the information, and we could combine the database with this information as a possibility. And others are possible as well. I see. Yeah, this is what I had to say for the GCU part. I see I have a few questions that I could answer, but we will answer the questions after the Correda presentation, if I see it right. Martin, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Okay, then we will postpone the questions till the end of Correda, and then I will answer the questions that I've seen already in the chat. Okay, now a hard cut. We have Correda. It's a commercial responsibility database. As you see in the middle, the database was started 2015 when the wagon numbers of the freight wagons were not allowed to change anymore if a leaser takes over. In the past, there was a possibility, but the regulation have changed, and then we stick to the numbers, even if they are sold to some other companies. It's the same number. we as UIC and the study group wagon users had faced with this problem, and we created this database to exchange the information who is responsible for the wagon. And the information is necessary because a lot of RU companies have bilateral contracts with each other that describe, if you take over my wagon, I send it back to you. And if I take over your wagon, I will send it back to you. And there are commercial contracts, bilateral commercial contracts that we have to fulfill. And this is why we had to install this platform in order to make sure that we can still fulfill the system that was developed a couple of years before. And the UIC members and of course others are open to use this database to exchange the information. Next page, please. These are the current members that we have in that are using the Coreda database from a lot of countries, and all of them have bilateral contracts between each other when it's necessary. Next page, please. What is this? As I mentioned before, the Coreda is a commercial responsible database. It's a project by Ray Darter, and it contains the wagon number, the keeper, the wagon responsible, and the time frame where the responsible is valid. And we as RU, we put in our information and share it with the other RUs that need the information in order to fulfill the contract. Next page. Here is a screenshot for as an example how we use it. So as an example, DB Cargo have rented some Ameva wagons, and we share this information with the ones that are having a contract with DB Cargo, and they can see, okay, with this wagon number and the time valid from, valid to, they have to fill the contract. And we have bilateral in this contract. We have called a worm list. It's a wagon a list where we have to send the wagons back. So there's an automatically process is a wagon, for example, arrives in Austria, and we have a contract with RCR that is describing, okay, if the wagon is arriving to Vienna, for example, then RCR will send the wagon directly back in order the contract. For example, it could be Passau or Munich or whatever is mentioned in the bilateral contract. We don't have to have a new consignment order in order to travel back the wagon. It's like an automatic process. Yes, here you can see some numbers. Right now we have close to 250,000 wagons with open responsibility time slots. So these are the wagons that are used, and the other, the 324,000 are wagons that we had before in our database. And for over 44,000 wagons right now, they have different wagon number to the responsible of the keeper is different than the wagon responsible for this kind of wagons. Wagons from 21 keepers, wagon responsibles are in this database. So we have 21 members so far in the Coreda database that are using Coreda to exchange the information. And now we have time to have to answer some questions.
Right. Many thanks, Christian. I will read the questions and maybe we'll then get back to the slides if necessary. So in the GCO broker workflow slide, there was an IP address mentioned along with the wagon number. whose IP address is that? That's the first question.
Okay, it's the IP address of the wagon keepers database. If you go back to this slide, so it's this one, right? The GCU broker is not a database, as I mentioned before. It's only the wagon number and the IP address of the keeper's database. So the GCU broker is able to forward the request of the wagon to the IP address of the wagon keepers, and he will receive then the information and collect all the information. If you have more than, you can ask 50 wagons at once, for example, and if there are different keepers, it doesn't matter. The GCU broker will collect the information and will send it directly back to the one who sends the request to the broker with one message.
Another one, staying on to GCU, if the connection of IT system of GCU members is also related to DP-Rel project?
Right now, not. Jürgen, please correct me, but so far there are no connections between.
You're muted, Jürgen.
Yeah, sorry. No, until now there is no connection with from the GCU broker to the DP-Rel. Because GCU broker is more or less a kind of platform. Maybe in future there will be some ideas to connect it, but currently not.
And for all details regarding DP-Rel, you can visit the website I put in the chat, so dp-rel.eu, where you can see the currently developed use cases, and this for sure will then be extended later on as others join and so on. And talking about the actual utilization of the applications, another question is why are only 20 RUs pushing the mileage data into GCU broker? So
yeah, it's a very good question. We try to force the companies, but some have problems to create this data in the proper form, and some are sending just it like the old-fashioned way by email to the wagon keepers. So it's one of our concerns, of course, that we would like to send all the information through the broker, and there's a possibility to upload it as a CSV file for small RUs, and for bigger ones, then they can use an interface. But you, as a member of the GCU broker, have to force yourself or your partners to do it the correct way. And we try, or we repeat ourselves a couple times to all the signatories, but in order to do it, please be aware of it by yourself, and please inform your GCU partners to do it the correct way. So yeah.
I think in the presentation from Peter later on, there is shown that there are 3 possibilities to transfer the wagon mileage from the RU to the wagon keeper. It's, for example, directly from the RU to the GCU broker, or from the RU via rail data ISR to the GCU broker. I think Peter will explain it in one of the next slides.
Yes, and of course, if I mentioned, there are possibilities that we have software, or there are supporters like Rail Data where you can use it, or other companies that offer the service for you. So if you are not able to create your own software or to have an interface, there are companies that could support you to have a connection to the GCU broker.
right, thanks. Staying with the GCU broker, another question is if it does share also live locations of wagons.
Not yet, and this is one of our use cases. But right now we don't know if it's really necessary, because the RUs know where the wagon is, and a lot of keepers already have GPS on their wagon, so they know it as well. But of course, what the keepers don't know is where's the wagon going. They know the location, but they don't know the destination. So it might be another option. But we are working on this, and we are not sure if it's really a use case for the GCU broker. But we are open, and if you see there a use case, let us know.
You know, one more remark for me to this topic. You know, there is in TAF TSI or telematics TSI a use case to send the wagon movement or in future wagon status message from the operational RU to the contractual carrier. That means that there is always already an information flow from about the localization where the wagon is right now. So if there is a use case that the wagon keeper also should know this, there must be decided or be a discussion what's the best way to get this information to the wagon keeper via GCU broker or via distribution of the wagon status messages or whatever.
Right. Thank you. And we have one more question. Or is there any other questions from the audience? If on GCU, please raise your hand. If it's not the case, there's one question on Corrida. Who do you mean with the wagon responsible? Is it the entity in charge of maintenance or the keeper or?
No, it's not. The wagon responsible could be the lessee, could be a third party, whoever is responsible for the operational transport. So this is, for example, it has nothing to do with ECM and keeper. It's the one who's commercially responsible for the transport, and it could be the keeper, it could be the lessee, it could be some a third party that just is responsible for the transports. This is the one that we need to inform who's responsible for this wagon, and this is the one I can ask for.
And it's used for REV fees and EVM or someone else model.
Right, and it's of course open for third parties as well as not only the 21. If you are interested, you can contact me and I can give you more information how to join and how it works.
Right. We just got another question. Why ECM is not indicated in Corrida?
Because it's not necessary in this point with the ECM. It's not it had nothing to do with some parts of maintenance. It's only for the commercial transport. So it's only for the consignment node necessary and not for maintenance program. This is why the ECM is not necessary for Corrida, and therefore we have the GCU broker.
Thank you, Christian. So I would say that the main takeaway is that although we have almost 800 members of the GCU contract as a legislation or private law, there are not so many participants in the actual data exchange via GCU broker. So this is a call to join and to adapt the IT systems to facilitate the transfer of data. An additional thing which can be visible in many other sectors as well is the data communication between the factors. So in this regard, we are trying to transform the rail data and its functions into a all-encompassing data platform called DP Rail. So the studies, the works are being done with this EU-funded project, and the aim is to really connect all of those platforms, so the data doesn't need to be sought in different places, but you will have one encompassing platform for the exchange, really facilitating the data transfer and thus also the business and making the shift to rail much easier for the actual customers. All right, let's continue with Peter on the wagon tracking. So
Okay.
ISR.
Thank you. Jürgen, also Christian already mentioned ISR at several cases today. And also the discussion about the position of wagons is a perfect entry point for this presentation about ISR and rail data. All actors in the rail freight need information about wagon position and status. Customers need to know where their consignments are. Wagon keepers want to know what their wagons do, and they expect this information mostly from RUs. And rail undertakings do part of their transports with collaboration of other partners, other rail undertakings, so they need to exchange data. It was mentioned that there are increasing number of GPS devices on wagons, but it is perfectly right. GPS tells you where the wagon is, but you don't know why. So we think we still will need to have this data exchange. So what is ISR? You see the abbreviation. What is the meaning? It is simply a central tool to exchange the data between RUs. And it enables to track wagons, and the value of ISR is increased by the fact that this point where it links wagons, consignment, and trains together. It is run and operated by UIC Rail Data. Rail Data, maybe you don't know, it's a special group of the UIC. And on the next slide, we have overview of the functions. The core of the ISR system is the module which deals with wagon events, which is complemented with the module which process the train run information. We call it ARTIS. To avoid any confusion, all of the modules you see all together we call ISR, although it has some internal structure, let's say. And also, I want to underline that ISR is not just a message broker which would receive and forward or send the message. It has several functions which provide some added value. And what you can see in the lower part are the modules which distribute the information with some additional data in it to the users. Yeah, so we have module which forwards wagon movements. We have module which I will explain later on for distribution of wagon performance. We have, of course, website which enables to look into the ISR data, and we have a functionality to forward train run information. And the functions are wagon status, wagon performance, train running, and we have also little addition. We call it experience transport plan. So the next slide. Some of you may smile to have such a picture, but believe me, it's really simplified, a lot of simplified, because we have plenty of interfaces. On the upper half of the slide, you can see inputs for ISR. So we receive from railway undertakings consignment node data and CUV data for empty wagons, which go to Orpheus, and these are the consignment node data. And Orpheus creates a subset of that. It is handed over to ISR, and this subset contains transport descriptions. The main flow for ISR, main incoming flow, is the wagon status messages from railway undertakings. Simply messages where RU reports what has happened with wagons. In addition, we get from some, not many, but few, railway undertakings also the wagon performance data, the kilometers done by wagons. And Other very important flow is from RailNet Europe. From the TIS train information system, we get train run information which originates in the systems of infrastructure managers, and RNA acts like a concentrator. And we also get some data from Coreda, which was mentioned by Christian before me. So we got some wagon lists with wagon responsible companies. Now we can proceed to the lower part of the slide, which describes outputs. Starting from left, RUs can make queries over the website or over a web service for the ISR data. The main flow is wagon status, so we forward, enlarged wagon status messages to the railway undertakings. Of course, we are in real life, so we have different versions of our wagon status message. So we deliver them the format which is needed for a specific RU. In parallel, we send part of the status messages also to X-Rail, which deals with capacity management for single wagon load traffic. Also, the next box on the slide you know already from today. This is the GCU broker, where we send this wagon performance messages, so the wagon kilometers, to be distributed to the target destinations. And this is the very good value of the GCU, because the broker knows who is the keeper of each wagon and where to send the wagon performance. So it's much easier then. It's very, very good functionality. Anyway, few rail data companies in their role of wagon keeper asked rail data ISR to send the wagon performance directly to them. One of the reasons is also technical, because we can support more of specific message format. But again, the typical scenario, the standard scenario, should be the go via the GC broker. And for few RUs, we also generate train run information, which originates from IAMS, from TIS via RailNet Europe, but we can put some additional data in the messages and also translate the location codes. So this was very simplified and maybe still a bit complex for first hearing the concept of the interfaces of ISR. So we can proceed to the next slide, which is a very simplified example how it looks when we follow the wagon run. So the railway undertaking, which is having the wagon in their hands, let's say, sends information from beginning. This is in some logical follow-up. So we have some transport order, we have a start of the shipping, then we have arrivals, departures on the way. Then if it is in collaboration, there is the set of information about handover and takeover by the next RU. We use also H30, as was mentioned by Jürgen Hiller in the beginning, is one of the sources for ISR as well. We have also information that wagon was unfortunately broken or damaged, and then after it was repaired, and so on and so on. We also use the train run information to enrich the messages about the wagon. So we derive from train run, we derive events on wagon level. So for all wagons which are in specific train, we create derived message passed through. And finally, we arrive to destination. Please, this list of event types is not complete, but for simplicity, I used only some to show on that simplified slide. And to give you an idea about the volumes, you can see the figures. We have really millions of events received, and hundreds of thousands of train-per advices. These H30 we got, so we follow quite in detail, the wagon run. So the next slide is the main benefits of ISR is these four. So we have information for the customers, where the consignments are. We are able, thanks to ISR, or you are able, thanks to ISR, to track the wagons also for some history, how it has evolved. You can use it for fleet management, for steering of empty wagons, for example, and also for the maintenance based on the wagon performance. And to the last benefit, I have next slide. So already, as Jürgen mentioned, there are different ways how the RW undertaking can calculate and report the performance of a wagon. So maybe let's start from bottom. RW undertaking can calculate the mileage. Sorry for using the mileage. It's British American expression, but we used it in the past. Always mileage, although we use kilometers, of course. So they can calculate it, send it to the GCU broker directly, and then it goes to respective keeper. In ISR, we offer two more concepts. So other option is that RU calculates themselves and send the result to ISR maybe in some another format than the wagon performance message is. So we support also other formats specific to a company, and then we modify it for the needs of the GCU broker. And the third option, which is used by a number of RU, is that they do not calculate the mileage at all on their side. They send the wagon status messages to ISR, and in the ISR we have a module which calculates the mileage, the wagon performance on behalf of those RUs, and then it is sent to GCU broker. We use different distance lists and various tables. And yes, maybe it's not perfect, but it is better than nothing. That's for the mileage. And then maybe looking on the time, maybe I can make an online demo with ISR. Just I will steal the screen.
Okay, go for it.
Very quickly. I looked on the trains which my Cherry Cargo has handed over to DB Cargo I think yesterday. I randomly selected a wagon with this wagon number, and we are now in the ISR web center where the ISR users can make queries about wagons in different parameters. I will not invent anything complex. And you can see that quite quick we got a response. You need to go from bottom to up to see the evolution. And you can also go back in the history, but let's look. This wagon, you can see it has reached destination in Melnik, just delivered. This is the finish of previous transport from Germany to Děčín in Czechia. Then we have create transport dossier, which is message from Orpheus, via Orpheus, that the new consignment node was created for a transport from Czechia to Germany, and it was then pulled from a siding, and it has left the origin. And then you can see how long the train had to wait until it was possible to hand it over to DB Cargo. It's a bottleneck of infrastructure in Szczecin and off the line to Germany. But then it left Szczecin and went to Bremerhaven when it was pulled, and again it's quite busy wagon because it will go back quite quickly. So you see the story of this wagon for specified time frame, and if you look on that left icon, you can get more details about the wagon event. You can even use it for searching of specific message, and you can see some more details about the consignment. So if now come back to the presentation. I see some hand raised, but I will finish and then we'll come back to questions. So one of the features today is how the messages and applications follow the TAF. So I have good news because even the current version of the message for the wagon status was, let's call it soft compliant, but we said it's not enough. We want to be fully compliant, and we did it in a way that we managed to modify TAF because ISR can be seen as some sort of industry standard, and also the solution which works apparently. So we managed to modify TAF. It will be in the new release. The wagon status message is the official TAF message, and also event types are now incorporated in the TAF. So everybody who is using ISR will be fully TAF compliant. Next slide, please. This shows the current ISR RUs. This list is going to be extended because we talked with a number of other RUs which will join in coming weeks and months, and all other RUs are welcome to join ISR. And these are far not only the let's say incumbent RUs, or also the daughter companies are joining now, and also any other company, RU company is welcome. It's given on one of the next slide, which lists the conditions for ISR, how to become the user of ISR. So it's not necessarily linked to be UIC member or real data member. It can be any freight RU which fulfills some obvious conditions. So if there is any RU interested, you can write to that email below, and we will send you ISR welcome pack with some instructions how to proceed, and you will be welcome. This is the end of my presentation. So looking forward to some questions.
Right. Thanks, Peter. There are two questions, if I'm not mistaken, but let me switch to the first scheme as they are related to this. So what kind of message is used by RU to send wagon status to ISR?
Total majority of the messages is the wagon status message called VSM, which exists in several versions. Currently, we have version 5 and version 60, and in development is version 61, which is then fully TAF. So this is the main message, the wagon status message. We can provide eventually the schema of that message, and in addition, we get this copy of H30, this Hermes 30, which was explained by Jürgen.
Can I just
one remark from my side, Peter? It was just mentioned on one of the slides. Perhaps you know that from TAF TSI, there were completely new messages described. It's the wagon movement messages, which was a complete different message for each use case. But in parallel, a lot of the bigger RUs were already using the wagon status message since a lot of years for the same purpose and for the same event. So what Peter already mentioned, the telematic expert group 6 for TAF TSI, which was chaired by Peter, we make a comparison between wagon movement and wagon status messages, which were already used, and we made a change request to the ERA EU Commission to replace the wagon movement messages by the already used wagon status message. And this is now the change request and is already confirmed, Peter. No?
It is. And it is already included in the draft telematic annex because the DG Move, they changed the way how the TAF is updated. But they already incorporated this proposition from TG6 in this new telematics annex. So it's, for me, it's approved.
Yeah, so we succeeded in this. Otherwise, all RUs would have been forced to implement completely new messages for the same purpose, which is already in use. So that's a good news.
And exactly, and the advantage is also that previously there was a specific message for each event type, which is not very convenient. So now we have only one message format, which you can use for each event type, putting different filling and different type code in it.
So the difference was that the wagon movement, as I said, the original TAF messages, there was foreseen for each event, for each use case was a completely different XSD schema necessary. And the wagon status message, there is one schema for all events, for all use cases, and the events are described by a code list. So it's very easier to implement and use these messages.
Yeah, I had a follow-up question on this. I mean, thanks a lot. So it's clear, it's the wagon status message. And then if I understand now from your list explanation, because my other question was, when does an RU sends an ISR? And that's then in function of all those codified events that he then kind of automatically sends an update or a new wagon status message, correct?
It's a new wagon status. And the same applies, I see the question, how do you get the wagon repaired? It's, if there is a wagon damaged, then the RU, which has the wagon, sends the wagon status message with the information that there's trouble with the wagon, and also what has happened, yeah, what is the trouble, yeah, what is the damage, and also if it has implication for the wagon run or not. And after the situation with wagon is resolved, the RU sent again wagon status message with information that wagon has been, let's say, repaired.
Was the question also when, in general, the wagon status message were sent or are sent, or was it special for wagon repaired?
The question was specifically for wagon repaired.
Okay.
See chat.
Because I just want to mention that, of course, it depends to each RU how to create and what is the trigger for these messages. But what we have done is that for our production system, for example, you have to make a departure notification, an arrival notification, give the input to the system that the wagon is picked up at the customer or delivered at the customer. And by this data entry, arrival, handing over, taking over, departure, in the background, these wagon status messages are automatically created. Yeah, so the trigger is already here in our production system, so that it's not needed, not necessary to enter here to trigger these messages manually. It's more or less in the background automatically. Yeah, so you don't have to fear that you have to send a lot of messages by a manual trigger.
And I
Now-
also would like to add, sorry, Peter, that the GCU broker is working on a communication between RU and Wagon Keeper about the wagon or return to operation, as I mentioned before. Yeah, so we have the communication RU to RU in this case. This is fulfilled with ISR, and the GCU broker will have a tool with the communication between RU to Wagon Keeper.
Correct.
Thank
This
you.
information which is exchanged via ISR is mainly for RUs, as Christian mentioned.
One follow-up question about this slide. Which of the information being shared here are part of Hermes?
Yeah, the Hermes message, what I said, is more or less related to the train, the content of the whole train, and focused on the handing over point, where a train with all wagons is handed over to another RO. Yeah. ISR is focused on on wagons, single wagons, and so the wagon status, when we send a Hermes message, this is used here by ISR, but the purpose and the focus of ISR and Hermes message, or wagon status message and Hermes message, is the focus is quite another. Hermes, it's the purpose to avoid manual data capturing, manual data entry at the handing over, so that we can operate the train without any stop. It's train related, and ISR is wagon related, to give the information, where is the wagon, what is the status, is it already delivered, or so on. So is it clear now?
Right. Yeah, I think so. Thanks. And I think we can confirm the follow-up remark after that question. So it's correct that Hermes is more a train message, while ISR is more about wagons.
That's completely right.
Another question we have is regarding the contributions to be a user of ISR, but I believe here it's push-pull triggered, and you pay for the information itself. But I think you have a better explanation, Peter.
Yes. In Rail Data ISR, we have, let's call it, price list, which is established by the members, but the price is the same if you are a member of Rail Data or not. Simply, all ISR users have the same price list, and the price list has a fixed part and variable part. You actually never pay for the data itself. The data are exchanged. The information inside is exchanged for free. Yeah, that's the basic principle. But we need to share the cost somehow. So you need to have some instrument to share the cost in a fair way, to respect the fact that some RUs are small and some are big. So some are big users and some are small users. So we have a concept for small users. We call them small user, which may have own interface to ISR, or they can use interface of other company. And we have a special low entry fixed fee, which is maybe, I think I can tell it, it's no secret. It's €2,500 per year. The big users pay bigger amounts. We have some limit of how many thousands and millions of messages you have to be considered as the big one. It's of course much more than this low entry fee, but not so dramatic. We talk about 10 to 15,000 per year. Nothing so critical. And we have a variable fee, which depends on the number of messages. But this fee is very, very low. So typically for small RU, it's a few euros, maybe €50 per year. So for small users, it's not so much.
Right, thanks. So to wrap up ISR, I would say that it's quite a powerful tool and application, enabling you to share information with customers, track the wagons, and enable some better fleet management and maintenance as well. And it only, let's say, only costs around from 2,500 to 15,000 ish euros a year, but all around you will not only know where your wagons are, but why your wagons are there, and it will simplify and facilitate the workflow and the actual transport of goods from A to B. Many thanks, Peter. So now let's wrap it up with the last session, and my colleague Parinas will tell us about how the work is structured at UIC.
Yes, thanks a lot, Martin. First of all, before going to the presentation of this, I wanted to especially thank the speakers of today, Fit for Freight, Peter, Jürgen, and Christian, for this clear vision on data exchange regarding wagon utilization. I believe that we learn a lot today. And regarding the work of UIC and expertise of UIC, so we have an IT study group that you heard a lot during the presentation. The aim is to facilitate and ensure an efficient data exchange. And UIC leverage and develop actually key IT assets to help members in having efficient data exchange. So in IT study group, we work together with UIC members and with IT representative, let's say, or experts of member of UIC. We discuss together regarding the challenges that we have in data exchange to reach an interoperable and efficient data exchange between RUs in international freight trains. And we discussed together how would be the solutions, if we can work on certain subject as a project. And also we maintain some, as I mentioned, we have some key assets. So we maintain these assets, we update them. So IT study group has some subgroups like GRU, which works and maintain Hermes 30 that you heard Jürgen explain to you about it. We have a sub-working group of NHM, which they work and update the harmonized commodity codes that is being used by RUs in the consignment node. Also, we have coding standards and subsidiary location codes that being managed by UIC IT study group like the YUM. That now we developed an application that will be in use from next year, which is Atlas, and also about border points and other subsidiary location code that is being used by RUs for locating actually the handing over points. And also we worked with sector initiative to see the synergies or what could be the information exchange between different initiatives. And also we are actively involved in a joint sector group, telematics group, RU IM communication, RU wagon keepers, and RU to help members to implement TAF-TSI regulation and to have a smooth data exchange in their operations. And so Jürgen is the chair of IT study group. NHM group is being managed by Roxana Simoyu, and the YUM working group is chaired by Tommy Ransmark. Thank you so much. If you have any question regarding the work that we have in IT study group, you can contact me and I will be happy to answer your questions.
Let me say thank you, Parinas. A few sentences to this. As you can see, there are a lot of topics which is focused on IT study group. As Parinas said, we are trying to help by implementation of new data exchange, also for TAF-TSI, but our purpose is also to have a look on currently on new developments, especially, for example, for tough TSI, and to have a common position as an RU, because especially for tough TSI, there is often a hard fight between the positions of the RUs and on the one hand side and the infrastructure managers on the other hand. So we are trying to get a common position and to fight for our wishes in these tough TSI groups, and therefore some of our IT study group members, for example, Peter, Tommy, Andreas, Abek, and myself, we are participants in a lot of such working groups for tough TSI, which is on the right-hand side, more or less, joint sector group, SMO, and some telematics expert group who deals, for example, for the wagon movement, what we have already heard. And yeah, we are also maintaining some messages and some applications like for Dium. Tommy Ransmark is sharing this, what Perrin has mentioned. Currently, there is a development of a Dium database that would enable the RU to publish new locations, new Dium stations in a on short notice and on a IT-based way, not like it was in the past. We are maintaining the NHM date or the NHM code list, and also what is on the left-hand side, GRU. This is a working group which exists a lot of years. This maintains also the Hermes 30 message and makes new versions, for example. And what I want to mention is if somebody has interest in interchange or exchanging Hermes message, they can send an email either to Parinats or to myself. Then we can go in contact to give information and how to get into Hermes exchange. So from my point of view, that's all. Thank you.
Das war schnell. Thanks, Jürgen, for this complementary information. I see that there is a question there regarding where is rail data in this slide. So yes, the rail data is a UIC special group, but to tell you that the experts of actually rail data, they participate actively in IT study group as well, yeah, so we have exchanges and discussions on the data-related subjects in the IT study group. I don't know if Peter and Jürgen or Tommy, if you want to add any information on this.
Okay, Tommy, are you going to mention having the advantage, have you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. Yes. Yeah. No, I think it's the right what partners have said, that rail data is dealing with ESR and Orpheus and these stuffs, and IT study group with the GRU, and Hermes is the task Jürgen, and the NHM and DU is direct under the IT study group under Parinas in UIC. So this has nothing to do with rail data at all.
Right, thank you. And to wrap up today knowledge transfer, we are resharing the first slide, so hope you now have a better picture on how does data exchange related to wagons work in rail freight. Yes,
there was a question about rail data on the previous slide. The answer is rail data couldn't be there because it's too big.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. So while are we sharing this last slide on or last content slide on what we covered today, I would like to share another 2 polls. So the first one about the format of these webinars. So in general, the aim of Fit for Freight is to share the knowledge being developed and maintained in the sector, and So it's as you can see by listening to today's webinar, it's quite complex, and it's there's a need to explain it in a simplified manner, but we are also open to make more like training sessions for the future, so that you can literally try to use the tools itself and see what's going on. But before, it's good to have a knowledge of the standards and the messages being transferred and so on to see how it works. All right, so 50-50. Yes, as we can see, it's quite complex, even considering that 2 days before we had a webinar on wagon utilization. So all of the legal parts and the do's and don'ts, liabilities, and so on. In previous sessions in spring and autumn last year, we had covered several other topics, which you can see on this slide. All right, thanks for your answers. And one more thing before we close today's webinar. I'm launching a third poll. It's a free text, so you can tell us what you would like to hear about next time. So at the UIC Freight, we structured or reorganized our competencies into 8 competence centers, and we are coming to you twice a year with a set of webinars to facilitate this knowledge transfer and to teach you more about what's going on in specific working groups, how you can join them, and what's the benefit of having them for the sector. So tell us more what you would like to hear about, see next time. And with this, I would like to say many thanks to you, the participants, and a special thanks to today's speakers, Petr Červinka, Jürgen Hiller, Christian Kunhanst, and Parinas Bazeri. Many thanks for having you, and I hope that we will see each other next year in another Spring Fit for Freight session.
Okay, also from my side, thank you very much for your interest and your participation and your questions. Hopefully we could answer this to your satisfaction, and have a nice day. Thank you.